Welcome back. The 1930s brought the birth of American comics, as well as a remarkable little boy named Davis Crippen. From 1939 until he was drafted into the Army in the early 1950s, Davis Crippen collected nearly every comic book that came out. Then he put them away, barely to be disturbed or discussed again, until his sons discovered the immensity of the collection after their father passed away. Its estimated value, some $2.5 million, and that was only the first shocker. Here to tell the tale, both of what was found and what was lost, Davis Crippen's two sons, Tom and Alex. Alex, as it turns out, is a longtime colleague of mine at CNBC. Alex, great to see you.
Good to see you too, Maria.
Also joining us is Lon Allen, a comic book expert who handled part of the collection sale this past week at Heritage Auction Galleries in Dallas. Gentlemen, nice to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Tom and Alex, let me begin with you. You knew your dad had a lot of comics, but he collected a ton of things. When did it dawn on you how truly valuable your dad's comic book collection was?
Tom took some time off from his work to actually catalog the comic books, and he was going through and adding up the values based on some of the street guides, and came up with some remarkable numbers that even turned out to be a bit low, as it turned out.
Tom?
Yeah, that's pretty much the case. We started out thinking it'd be worth at least 50,000, maybe 100,000. I don't like to get my hopes up, so I didn't really want to think about it past that point. But after the first 3 weeks of cataloging, I'd already reached 100,000, and that was just a fraction of the collection. So at that point, we knew that we were in the deep water.
Oh, my God. So, Lon, you had enough information from Tom to make you think it was worth making a trip to the Crippen home outside of New York City. What did you discover moments after you arrived?
Oh, it was amazing. I walked into their dining room, and spread out on the table were just caches of the most rare comic books in the world, things you just never see.
What about the code?
Well, that's the extra interesting part. As soon as I opened up the first comic, I saw this neatly penciled, very cryptic code written on the first page, and I recognized it immediately because it's from a very well-known collection that came out 15 years ago and is already a legend among hobbyists.
Just take me back for a minute, Alex. When did it occur to you that there were actually comics missing, and how did you know that?
Well, it was really Tom who knew that as he was going through, and he would be cataloging the comic books, and he would say to us, you know, there's some missing. I remember when we were kids, and we'd go down to the basement of our grandparents' house in Washington, D.C., and read some of these comic books, which was always made you feel like you were going back in time. It was really a wonderful experience. And he remembered reading some comic books from back then, some of the superhero comic books, that he wasn't finding now. So when Lon came and told us that some of these books had been out on the market for 15 years, then we began to know that, in fact, something had happened.
So there was some detective work that followed, right, Tom? Tell us where the trail led you.
My mother remembered that back when these comics first appeared on the market, which apparently was the early 1990s, there was a lot of renovation done on the house. And with that as kind of the lead, the reporter for the Wall Street Journal eventually talked to the man who had sold a lot of these comics onto the market back in 1991. And he agreed to give our family the name of the man who sold him the comics in the first place. And I really don't want to go beyond what is in the Wall Street Journal article. The facts basically are this. The man who bought the comics says that he has records showing that the name of the man who sold them is, well, I won't repeat the name here, but he has the name. He gave it to our family. That is also the name of a man who did construction work on the family's house.
Amazing.
But I'll tell you, Maria, you know, we really feel strongly as a family at what my mother has been saying is what's done is done. And we really feel that while it's unfortunate that what happened, that we want to look at the positive side, and that is this great collection that my father put together and the great legacy that he left his family.
So there's no way, Lon, that somebody else could have bought those comics that were missing, right? I mean, it's you know, you have to believe that those comics were, in fact, part of the Crippen collection, and then they were stolen.
Sure. they're unique enough, and the code is unique, and just certain condition qualities about the books, and all the ones that came out on the market before, there are those same holes in this collection now.
It's amazing. So Alex and Tom, I mean, you feel at peace then at this, or are you? I mean, it's got to make you crazy that a contractor came into your father's house and stole some comics and then resold them.
We've had all kinds of emotions about the whole comic book collection. Our father died about a year ago. That's been emotional. I think dealing with the comic books has been emotional in all kinds of different directions. And we've had anger, we've had peace, and right now I think we are at peace with it. We really want to put the past behind us and look to the future and really look at what is one of the greatest comic book collections of all time.
Yeah, and we should say that the Wall Street Journal did contact the contractor, and he has denied that he stole anything and resold it.
That is correct, yeah.
Meanwhile, Lon, describe a few of the most prized pieces.
Well, one of the most valuable, and it is just a legend in this hobby, is called Suspense Comics #3. And it has a very lurid cover with hooded Nazis and a girl in bondage, and it became very famous about 15 years ago, and it has proven to be basically the rarest comic out there. And the one in this collection is by far the finest known example. And there are other ones that more recognizable to the general population. Superman #1, very rare, very valuable. Detective #31, which Detective is where Batman originally appeared. This is a very early appearance of the Batman, and the most famous cover of the entire run.
That is so great. Tom and Alex, what do you think your father would have made of this whole story?
In a sense, this whole event is kind of a tribute to my father being right when everybody else was wrong, and he always loved that kind of situation. Back when he was a boy and he decided just to stockpile these comic books and hold on to them, he was maybe the only person in the world who thought that made sense. I mean, the people who made the comics, the people who sold them, the people who bought them, all just assumed that they were disposable product. My father was going against the current, and now it's paid off in millions of dollars.
What an amazing tribute to him. Thanks so much for sharing your story, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our thanks to
Thank you.
brothers Alex and Tom Crippen, as well as Lon Allen. And as we take a break, take a look at some of those comics and what they fetched at the first round of the collections auction, including the most valuable 1944 issue.